Here we go.
What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
Richardson gonna take off and run. He's in there! Touchdown! I-N-D-Y! Outside give to Taylor. Stretching it out. He's at the 5, and he walks in untouched. Jonathan Taylor. Turner wants to do more damage, and he does.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
John Boy is indeed partying somewhere today, but it is not at the Indiana State Fair. There's a couple of different ways which I can tell you how much the 93.5 and the 107.5 of the Fan empire have grown since my days of being a full-time member of the family, which remarkably, even though I'm like always on, it has not been my primary source of income since 2018. My name is Greg Rakestraw. Hello, how are you? I'm the guy that sounds like JMV, which is the reason they have me fill in like the 5 days a year that he actually takes off. I'm usually the guy that is filling in for him. Hello, how you doing? But I can give you a couple different reasons why the now Urban One, Radio One owned fan frequency is an absolute blowtorch, is absolutely massive. A, not one but 2 shows, back-to-back shows, live from the Indianapolis, I almost said Motor Speedway, from the Indiana State Fairgrounds, and yet our show locations are nowhere near each other. So I am out by the Hoosier Lottery Free Stage, which is at the northwest corner of the facility, which is very convenient for me because it's as close as I could park here at the State Fairgrounds. Since I'm a local and I live like 20 blocks north of here, I call what are now IU Indy games, or have for the last 10 years, at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. So I kind of know my way around the facility and how to get here. So conveniently located for me to get to my car quickly, because this is not exactly atypical for me. I'm trying to do 3 different things at one time. I have a function for the ISC Sports Network I have to get to like immediately at the conclusion of the show, and I'll tell you more about that coming up a little bit later on this hour. But we've got 6 hours of live radio, 2 different shows, 2 different locations at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Not too many radio stations would do something like that. The other thing that I would indicate in terms of the popularity of this here radio show and this here radio station would be the fact that they have a substitute teacher doing a remote show today. Normally, when the fill-in is doing just that and filling in, that person is doing things from the studio. But no, I get to get out of the cage a little bit here and interact with people that are walking by and have no idea who I am, or think I'm JMV. I've already received 1 thank you for the quality radio show I do each and every day as he was walking by. I didn't have the heart to tell the poor kid, hey, I'm not John, but thank you very much. I just said, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the show, and let him go about enjoying his day as he walked away, and he would go, man, John's really put on some weight, hasn't he? I just didn't want to, rain on his parade there. So that has already happened here, too. Now, the reason why we are at the Indiana State Fairgrounds today, other than what is the always awesome nature of the Indiana State Fair, and the reason we are specifically, and you can't see it, those of you that are watching on YouTube, Twitter, whatever, that are stuck looking at me for the better part of the next 3 hours, but as I look past that camera, that's where the Hoosier Lottery Free Stage is. And there is a band that is playing at 7:30 tonight that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't. It's called Dog Star. Now, I can't tell you that I'm familiar with their music, but there is one of their musicians that, well, I do kind of know, and certainly fits the genre, the 80s, 90s pop culture attitude that fits this here show, The Ride, to a T. Robert Mailhouse is a member of the band. You probably don't know who that is. Brett Domrose is a member of the band. You probably don't know who that is. Keanu Reeves is a member of the band, and ding, 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 that is the reason why we are sitting here today. Now, is Keanu going to be on the show today? No, No members of the band will be on the show today. However, they are so cool, we will do an entire 3-hour radio show next to the stage, and literally as like the guitar technician is warming up. So you'll hear like some random music that is happening in the background. We are literally here between now and 6 o'clock. A, I hope I make you laugh. B, I hope we entertain you. Hope we inform you on some things. But every segment we will tell you, hey, Doghouse, a.k.a. Keanu Reeves, is going to play the Hoosier Lottery Free stage at 7:30. That's the exact reason why I am sitting here talking to you. And even on a day where JMV gets his, like, HR-mandated one day off, like in a quarter, that we're still doing a live show here. So feel free to come out and join us. If not, then you can join the show in spirit or in conversation. You can do so by tweeting to me at Greg Rakestraw. You can always old school call the show, 317-239-1070. James is back in the studios, and he'll figure out a way to get your phone calls to me in a timely fashion. And again, even though I don't have an office in the building anymore, I still have an email address, greg@1070thefan.com, if you want to email the program. Now, I am going to do the typical substitute teacher thing. Like John could easily do 3 hours of radio, because he used to do 4 every day. And frankly, he's used to having guests like me every Tuesday at 3:30. But he could just pontificate for 3 hours. That is a skill that you develop. It is a skill that I think I have, but it's somewhere on reserve. So I do kind of the nervous Nelly thing and go, all right, I don't want to just completely bomb on the radio show today. What can I do to make sure that doesn't happen? How about I overbook the show and I get as many guests to join the show as humanly possible? So here's the rundown of who will be on the show today. Now, one of them was gifted to me by JMV, like as of this afternoon, and I know him well also. Carson Steel, as in Center Grove football, Ball State football, UCLA football, currently on the roster of the Kansas City Chiefs. He is slated to join us coming up in the next segment of the program. After that, Austin Taylor will join us, and probably you don't know who Austin is. And I hope you've heard of what Austin does primarily for a living, or at least what he's known for from a sports standpoint locally. He is the guy behind an effort called the City League. And what that has turned into is the best, I want to say pickup basketball. That's not giving it the proper credit. Pro-Am maybe is the better way to put it. A lot of folks that have played some high level of college basketball, a lot of folks that have played professionally, and this is done on both the men's and women's side of the ledger. And they have gotten to the championship games, which are tonight at the Bonner Fitness Center down on the campus of Tech High School, and that is where I will be racing off to as soon as I am done interacting with you fine folks at 6 o'clock. Because the women's game is at 6:30, the men's championship game is at 8, and if seeing a lot of former greats like the Goss sisters on the women's side, like Portia Green. On the men's side, guys like Darius Adams, who is a legend at UIndy, Marcus Teague that is playing in the game. If that wasn't enough for you, there's money involved. Not for you. They're not going to hand you money to show up, but they are going to hand the winners of those games tonight $6,000 and $8,000 respectively, which, trust me, means the ends of those games get very interesting. I have had the good fortune of being on the television call of those games for the last 4 years, and will do so for a 5th consecutive year. ISCSportsNetwork.com, ISC's Twitter, and YouTube are the most convenient ways in which you can find that. Jared Thomas joins me on that, and the action is at 6:30. So in my typical fashion, this is like a triple header for me today. I'm talking with you until 6 o'clock, then doing a basketball doubleheader, and it is the last basketball game that I get to do until I get to like early November, when I am back at this facility at the Indiana State Fairgrounds calling an IU Indy game as they open up their season at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum on November the 4th. So my last chance to do basketball play-by-play in about 3 months. Now, I'm going to get back to basketball coming up in a matter of moments, but let me finish kind of rolling through the guest lineup for today's show. Sean McAuley, head coach of the Indy 11, will be joining me in the 4 o'clock segment of the show. Coach McAuley's team won last night, got their first win in nearly a month, 29 days to be precise. First league win since mid-June. I say that, and they're still 4th place in the Eastern Conference. Coach McAuley joins me at 4. Of course, Sean is with me every week on Soccer Saturday, and I'll let you in a secret, kids. The interview that we do at 4 o'clock today is going to sound an awful lot like the interview that you will hear Saturday morning at 9 a.m. just through the magic of radio, those things might exactly match, like, say, word for word coming up on Saturday morning. So just friendly tip in terms of that direction. Billy Brooks, and he and I will be doing radio together, well, for an umpteenth consecutive year on the Ascension St. Vincent Radio Network, to be better known as the Colts Radio Network. I am honored the Indianapolis Colts are having me back for a 13th consecutive year to host the post-game show, for a 5th consecutive year to do red zone highlights inside the stadium for home games, and now for a, if I do the math correctly, 6th time in the last 7 years, I get to have the preseason television call. So that comes up on Sunday. So if you think this is a double dip that I am doing today, oh, just wait, my friend, there is more. Because Sunday at 1 o'clock on Fox 59, NFL Network 2, you will hear and see myself, Rick Venturi, Lara Overton, Colts preseason opener against the Denver Broncos. And then as soon as that broadcast is done, I will head up top and I will do the post-game show with Bill Brooks, and Billy and I get to work together again. So Bill will join me during the 4 o'clock hour of the show. Mike Chappell, of course, is a regular on all of our shows on The Fan. Chappie will join us at 5, and I always love talking to Chappie, period, but especially in and around Hall of Fame time. And since the ceremonies were last weekend, we'll have plenty to talk about with Chap during the 5 o'clock hour. And then I may not exactly be in tennis shape anymore. It's fitting they put me next to the booth that has the deep-fried Oreos, typecasting that works out very well. But I'm still a tennis player. I don't play it very well, but I still play. But I was never to the level of Rajeev Ram. Few are. He is one of the many local products, Indiana natives. That number seemingly keeps going up by the day in terms of medal winners from the state of Indiana. Well, Raj picked up his 2nd Olympic silver medal, doing so in men's doubles in Paris this weekend. To show you how quickly the tennis players can have to turn around their lives, he is playing in Montreal as we speak. Rajeev and I caught up yesterday, and we're going to play that interview coming up for you later this afternoon. So, like I said, from a guest standpoint, I've got several of them. When we don't have a guest, I would love for you to join the program. 317-239-1070, at Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. Email the program to greg@1070thefan.com. Now, I have been very much locked into the Olympics, but probably more of the standard Olympic events. And the reason being is I don't think I have to explain to you my level of sports nerddom. Other guys in the station do a pretty good job of doing that. John knew that I would have background information on Cole Hocker, a couple of days ago. Even though I never did like play-by-play for track and field or cross country, I would just know it. I think you kind of know me by now. So having to sell me on watching the Olympics isn't exactly a problem, but my wife is all in bat blank crazy about the Olympics every 2 years, whether it's winter or summer. So that means that, hey, I'm not going to fight this. We're going to watch the Olympics. But normally it is what I would say the primary Olympic sports. There's been a lot of gymnastics on in the Rakestraw household. There's been a lot of swimming on in the Rakestraw household. This week it's been track and field, and obviously there has been a wonderful local carryover as far as that is concerned. So I have kind of kept an eye on Team USA, but have I been as locked in on the basketball as John has been? No. John has basically watched hoop from like 5:30 in the morning until literally the start of the show, and he has broken down not just what Team USA has done, but virtually every team that is so loaded with NBA talent that is playing in the men's basketball Olympic draw. Well, we are down to 4 teams that are left to play and 3 teams that, still have a chance for a gold medal. And one of them is Team USA. And for a 3rd time, once in a friendly, to use the soccer term, once in pool play, and now in the semifinal match, the U.S. is playing Serbia. And by the way, Serbia is leading. 27-20 is the score. Not exactly a lot of defense being played in the first quarter of that one. That game literally tipped off as this show began. So I will do my best. If I just watch this, I couldn't pay attention and talk to you. I'll kind of side-eye it as best I can. But during the commercial breaks, we'll talk more about it. And I'm not going to run the risk of just doing play-by-play. And as soon as I say that, Steph Curry hits a three. 27-23, Serbia now leading Team USA. We'll keep you updated on that game as it goes on between now and should wrap up at, say, 4:45 or 5 o'clock. Since we are talking about the Olympics, this is something I have wanted to talk about more or less since I knew that I was going to be doing the show today. Usually I get like about a week or so heads up, hey, can you fill in and do this show? And immediately my talk show host brain re-engages because and especially the way we format the clock here, I know that I have got like 25 minutes off the top of the show, and I need to talk more or less without taking a breath and stringing all of these little factoids together and trying to do so in an interesting fashion. For those of you that still go to church on Sunday mornings, the preacher's sermons are only about 20 minutes. So I even go a little bit longer than those monologues tend to go. But I try to bounce back and forth from topic to topic and probably have a little less importance in general in life than what your minister is trying to tell you. But I digress. The one thing I wanted to talk about today, and we'll see if I can do it kind of around all of the guests that we have. And it's fitting that the Olympics are on as I'm watching. And, again, it's radio except for those of you watching on social media as I look and try to get line of sight to the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, and I can't because of, like, the corn dog stand that is to my right. I've been thinking about this every time I watch a different Olympic sport at a different Olympic venue. And I go, we could do this here. Because right now we are back on a high in terms of hosting sporting events in central Indiana. Think about the Olympic swim trials that were here all of 6 weeks ago. We did it at Lucas Oil Stadium. We did it to a level that no one had ever seen before in this country. And think about, the announcement of, hey, the Big Ten football championship is staying here. And we're going to get more of the Big Ten basketball championship games. Even with more members coming in from the West Coast, the majority of championship games are played right here. We're so used to first and second NCAA tournament games and, Sweet 16 and Elite Eights and Final Fours that happen here on a regular basis. There's not a bigger single-day sporting event in the world than the one that we just celebrated a little more than 2 months ago. And to share the ultimate devotion of the fans that go, we gave people an excuse to go home early because of rain delaying the start for about 4 hours. And I can tell you that maybe 5,000 to 10,000 people out of a crowd of 350,000 people went home. A minute fraction of people went home. They stayed. They knew the traffic on the way home was going to suck. They knew they would be listening to me in the post-race show because they had no other option after the 500 was done, but it was worth it. We do sporting events as well as anybody not in this country on the planet. And it has been, amazingly, 15 years since I have been a daily talk show host. So a lot of things that I will say or talk about, I've been on this stump speech before, but it's been 20 or so years ago. And my days of being a daily talk show host in Indy lasted from like fall of 2000 to May of 2009. And this may have been kind of early in my days on a different frequency over on the old ESPN 950. But one of the things that I talked about early, and this might have been in conjunction with one of the few things we did not do well or just simply did not kind of hit or seemingly have a great impact. One of the few things that went wrong for us from a sports hosting standpoint was the World Championships of Basketball back in 2002. I'm not sure that was our fault. It just didn't stick for whatever reason. Didn't work. But I remember thinking about that going, at some point in time, our goal should be to host an Olympic Games here. And as I see all of these venues, like I'm eyeballing like volleyball, the indoor volleyball, and going, that's about a 10,000-seat venue. We could put those at Hinkle Fieldhouse. We could put that at the new venue in Fishers. We could put that, again, I'll point to the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, which you have never been. It's now 10 years old, the refurbished version. It's a tremendous place to watch. We have all this event space here. We have all of this convention center. Now, listen, we can't exactly put beach volleyball in front of the Eiffel Tower. We don't have that here. But you know what else we got? We've got that place that has 250,000 permanent seats, give or take a few thousand, at 16th and Georgetown. What's to say we couldn't have one event in one corner in turn 1? Another event is out in turn 3. And another event is in turn 4. And that could be a sports festival in a theater in a setting that no one has ever imagined. Opening ceremonies, how about having the Parade of Nations going across the 2.5-mile oval? And you recognize that country as they pass the yard of bricks. But let's also talk about, here the way the rotation kind of works as far as host nations and things of that sort. 84 Olympics in Los Angeles. 12 years later, it was in Atlanta. It's now going to be, a gap of 32 years to the next time we get to host the Summer Games, that being Los Angeles in 2028. So the next time you would think the states would likely get the games would be in 2048. I hope I'm still around at that point in time. I'd be about 72 years of age when that is the case. Probably shouldn't have eaten that corn dog I just had before the show started, but want to see those games in 2048. But, again, we've kind of moved past Indianapolis as just the amateur sports capital of the world or the United States, because we welcome all kinds of sports, whether it's professional, college, high school, international events. We do them all, and we do them well. But one of the things that has made our city what it has been for the last 40 years has been that spirit of, we can do this. And I'm just the substitute teacher filling in today. But knowing, to make a second religious reference of the opening segment, I have the pulpit today as well. I want to plant the seed in your mind that one of our goals, one of the last boxes that we as a sports city has to check. We would jokingly call this is a great July topic. On a slow day, trust me, I've ran this page of the playbook doing this show before, basically saying, hey, what would you like to see that we don't have here on a regular basis? Like you could say, hey, what about more of a PGA Tour regular stop? What about a bowl game? We joke about WrestleMania. Well, WrestleMania is coming here. But the ultimate would be having an Olympic Games here. Is Indianapolis Paris? No. Is Indianapolis Rio? No. Is it Beijing? No. Is it London? No. But do we have all of these sports venues where we could host these things? Yes. Do we have this remarkable volunteer spirit where if we would go to people by the thousands in central Indiana and say, we are hosting the world, we'd like to have you volunteer, people would absolutely do it. I don't know how we fix surfing. We'd send them back to Tahiti with Colin Jost, but just something to think about. At some point in my lifetime, I would love to see the Olympics here in Indianapolis, and I don't think it's that far-fetched. I think we could pull it off. We got to get to a break. Carson Steel and his Olympic level of hair will join us next. It's Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV. We are live at the Indiana State Fair. Stop by and see us. We are by the Hoosier Lottery Free Stage. We're back in a moment. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Dude, most metal
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We are live at the Indiana State Fair. We are next to the Hoosier Lottery free stage. And the reason we are out here, you know, Jake and Jimmy were at the Dairy Bar on the other side of the facility because of our great friends at the American Dairy Association of Indiana. We are here to promote the fact that there is this band called Dog Star. I think I may have called them Doghouse. I apologize if I did. Dog Star, full stop. They are playing at 7:30. And again, am I familiar with their music? Not really. I am familiar with their bassist. You probably are too. Give me two, Utah. Keanu Reeves is playing with Dog Star tonight at the Indiana State Fair at the Hoosier Lottery free stage, and the show begins at 7:30. I'm sure a young man that was a celebrity when he would visit the Johnson County Fair back in his days at Center Grove High School. You also know him from his days at Ball State, UCLA, and these days trying to make his way in the National Football League with the Kansas City Chiefs. It is Carson Steel that joins us now. Carson, it's Greg Rakestraw. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing good. You've been introduced as so many different teams. Are you getting accustomed to the fact of having Chiefs attached to your name now?
Yeah, it's a little bit surreal, you know, when you first get it announced out. But, you know, it's definitely sinking in a little bit now, and it feels great. So.
Well, I know you from your days, obviously, back at Center Grove and happened to catch, I think, your first varsity game playing against Warren Central back in the day. So you're used to being a tailback or a halfback, but on the depth chart listed as a fullback. So what is that kind of change of position like for you so far?
For sure. And, you know, just coming into everything, they kind of told me a little bit like, hey, you know, we're going to kind of push you around in different spots, you know, try you in every category basically. And, you know, just like my style of game, I'm a bigger running back, you know, get the tough kind of yards. And that's kind of more of a, you know, like a fullback standpoint. And, you know, so I just talked with them about it, and they really thought that, you know, that was the best position and spot for me to be able to fit in and, you know, help out for the team. And so that's where they got me at right now so far.
So does that mean you're doing a lot of blocking? Does that mean you're doing a lot of pass catching? Just how different is practice for you than, say, it has been when you know you've been the featured guy getting the ball for the last several years at different levels?
Yeah, and just like you were saying, you know, being the, you know, featured running back and stuff like that. But honestly, you know, under Coach Reed's offense, you know, they have me catching out of the backfield, you know, still taking reps at running back too as well, you know, and like you said before, more of the pass blocking and the, you know, running downhill and blocking. But, you know, just being able to be surrounded by a bunch of, you know, great people and, you know, fit in where I get in is kind of my motto. And, you know, so if they want me to come down and block, I'm going to come down and block, or they want me to catch out of the backfield, you know, I got to do that as well, too. Just any way I can fit in.
For the entirety of your life, Andy Reid has been winning football games in the National Football League. You've now been around him for, 3 or 4 months. What are the things that are already hitting you as to, this is why this guy is a genius. This is why he is going to the Hall of Fame. What have you learned from him already?
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's once that first playbook, you know, hit down on my desk, it was like 200 and some plays, and you know, just being able to. He has, you know, so many concepts of, you know, having different things and having dudes that can play more than one position, and, you know, having them switch out and stuff like that. Having so many categories where you could put another player in a different spot. It just kind of switches up, you know, the game and confuses people. And, you know, nobody really knows what's going on. And that way, you know, that's why his offenses have been able to work so much. You know, so just being able to get in here these last, you know, couple months, I would say, you know, learning the scripts, the playbook, learning how everybody does everything, and especially, you know, being under the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
It definitely has helped out and, you know, really, you know, provided my game to another level.
Well, that's where I was going next. You know, Andy Reid is the wow factor in the meeting room. Patrick Mahomes is the wow factor on the field. Do you have to try to, you know, like almost block that out and go, hey, dude, you're playing football. Don't think about it, because again, he has been the best player in the league now for so many years, and the winningest player from a Super Bowl standpoint. How do you kind of not think about that when you're out there on the field with him?
Yeah, just like you said, being out there every day on a practice field, growing up watching these dudes play, and now you're playing with them. You kind of see the first couple days, you're kind of surreal moment, but after that, you kind of just got to lock in and get going with it. But like you were saying, just having him around in the atmosphere, the locker room, the meetings, the practice field, he's a leader, and he's always going to be a leader. And, so he's always pushing, in the meetings, just the little details. And that's why they've been so great. It's because he's able to do it without having a head coach, have to push every single person. He could push a couple guys, and then Pat's going to lead as well, especially, some of the other veterans too. They're going to lead their groups, have the success that, everybody's seen them have.
Former Center Grove Trojan, Ball State Cardinal, UCLA Bruin, Carson Steel, our guest, Greg Rakestraw, in for JMV here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. As I do a quick check of the depth chart, obviously George Karlaftis has been out there and won a couple of rings. Drew Tranquill is out there now, and those are obviously, you know where I'm going with this. Those are the Indiana guys that played high school football in the state. How well did you know either of those two before training camp got started?
To be honest, they're a little bit older than me, so I didn't know them that well. I knew George played at Purdue. He played with David Bell and stuff, so I knew a little bit more of that because I played David at Warren, So, going into it, I didn't really know him that well. But, as training camp's going on, obviously we all have had the connection, being Indiana guys. And, it's been great going against them, too, every day, because they're the best of the best as well. So being able to go against, one-on-ones just every single day is just the only reason that, keeps improving both our games.
Let's talk about last year. What were your expectations going into UCLA? When you look back on it, what did that do in terms of giving you this opportunity in the National Football League?
For sure. Obviously, everybody has the expectations. You want to go into somewhere, kind of be the guy and, get the most reps, carry, stuff like that. But, when I went in there, had a little bit of a, hiccup, had an injury throughout the year, and I had a hernia on my left side. So that kind of hindered me a little bit throughout the year, and many people didn't know that I had it, because I kind of just kept playing through it. So I kind of got my carry split a little bit. But, at the end of the day, being under Coach Foster, it really helped me to, take my game to the next level and just learn, the little things, what it is to be a running back and fullback, being able to block, catch, pass, like we were saying before. And I would say that really, showed up on my film both at Ball State and UCLA, and that's kind of really what I feel like made the Chiefs to, have the push to sign me. So,
when you were in Westwood or Pasadena, did you feel like you were at a Big Ten school, Carson?
Honestly, I really did. Just having, being able to see, just coming in, it felt a little weird, going from Ball State to LA, but. And, it's going to be an exciting year for them, too, as well, being able to travel all over, playing throughout the Big Ten. But just seeing the, the facilities and stuff like that they had, everything to really help out an athlete. They're definitely going to make a run and compete with the big guys. So I'm excited for it.
All right, couple quick things, and then we'll let you go. How often do you talk to Coach Moore? Who, from a Center Grove football standpoint, have you stayed connected to over these last 3 years?
Definitely. I would say, man, I couldn't tell you. I would say we call every other couple days, just checking up on each other. He's a great guy, a great football coach, obviously, just all the success he's had. But he's also, been a very good person to me as well, outside of football, helping me with stuff. So always staying connected with him. And there's been a few people that I've stayed connected with, throughout the Center Grove Football League, just because, like I was saying, it's always been a big tradition type of feeling when you go into the Center Grove atmosphere, watching the Titus McCoys, Max Norrises, Devon Swan, those guys before me now. And now you got guys that are younger, like McClurg, and then Owen Bright, his little brother's coming up. Just like you can see the Cherries as well. Just younger guys, too, now that are coming up throughout the tradition, and they've grown up throughout Center Grove. And that's really the big thing is that everybody starts young in Center Grove, and that's what really makes them have success later on in high school.
Carson, some of us are old enough where we've called the McClurig's dad's games at Center Grove as well, just so you know, as we're having this conversation. Carson Steel, our guest. Again, Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. So as a rookie that is trying to make the team, you don't get that veteran luxury of getting a series or two in the preseason. You're going to be out there a lot. What are your expectations in terms of playing time coming up this week and for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, just like you were saying, coming up the preseason, this is kind of really to make your mark. But, I'm expecting a little bit of both of, running back, fullback, a lot of special teams as well. So I just got to really get out there and kind of showcase what I have to offer and, see how everything goes and hopefully, keep making the push forward to, jump out and make that 53-man, roster. So I'm very excited for it.
Final thing, you have been in Kansas City now for maybe 3 months at this point. Mm-hmm. Kansas City is a wonderful town, especially when it comes to barbecue. Have you picked out your favorite barbecue spot in Kansas City just yet?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of doubted them for a second about the barbecue. I heard about it, but I didn't really know for sure. And I'm telling you, you could go to any spot. It doesn't matter if it's out in nowhere or downtown. If you go to any spot, it's always going to have good barbecue. So everyone I've went to so far, it's been great. So I'm still trying to figure out number one right now.
Well, let me tell you this. Let me give you this. I'm heading out to Kansas City. I'm going to be out there. The Indy 11 are playing out there in the Open Cup. So I'm going to do the match at Children's Mercy Park for Sporting Kansas City on August 27th. I'm landing at the airport at 10:30. I don't have to be at the stadium until about 4 o'clock local time. In the 5.5 hours I have in between, I can guarantee you I'm going to Gates Barbecue at some point in time.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an idea as to maybe a spot you should try out or like. Just a tip from a friend. How about that?
For sure, yep. That's definitely one of the fan favorites, too. So.
And then final thing before we let you go, final thing, is the hair still as luxurious as ever?
It definitely is. I got to keep my style going, so I got a little trim going, but nothing too much. So it's still flowing out the helmet. So definitely excited for that one as well too.
I never had that level of game, so I'm jealous and respectful of that all at the same time. Carson, I'm rooting for you, buddy. I appreciate your time. Good luck in Kansas City. I hope our paths cross soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You got it. Former Center Grove Trojan, Ball State Cardinal, UCLA Bruin, and hopeful to be a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. And if there's a coach that can figure out a way, how do I use his talents at different positions? Andy Reid is that guy. Thanks to Carson for joining us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We'll take this quick timeout. We'll update you as to what is going on in terms of the Olympics right now for Team USA. No bueno. Men's basketball team losing to Serbia 50-37. That is with 2 minutes left to go in this semifinal before we get to halftime. We'll talk about hoops of a local variety when we come back. We are live at the Indiana State Fair. We are next, the Hoosier Lottery free stage. Dog Star goes on at 7:30. Again, come check out the basis. He's going to look really familiar to you. Back in a moment, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Let me have a Diablo sandwich, a Dr. Pepper, make it fast. I'm in a damn hurry.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It is a beautiful day at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Still a little warm, but nowhere near as much as it was earlier in the week. A little bit of a cool breeze that's refreshing. Obviously, they're not exactly lacking in beverages anywhere around here. And the forecast for the weekend is absolutely stellar. If you are going to get here tonight, I would suggest you head towards the northwest corner of the facility, the Hoosier Lottery free stage. Again, the band is Dog Star. They go at 7:30. And again, the bassist might look somewhat familiar to you. Now, last year, there was this wonderful basketball theme that was a part of the Indiana State Fair. And the guy that was a big part behind that is Austin Taylor. Tonight, he'll not be checking out Dog Star. He'll be down at the Bonner Fitness Center because the City League has their annual men's and women's championship games for a combined $14,000 in prizes. Austin joins me now. Good afternoon, my friend. How you doing?
Hey, Greg, great to hear from you. I had no idea you were at the State Fair. I'm supposed to be there right now.
You were here yesterday, right?
I was. I've been there since Friday, on and off.
Well, you live in the area, so this is home for you, and basketball is what you do. And I'm sure we have given a variety of this for quite some time in terms of, you know, the different story, et cetera. Give me the elevator speech. Yep. What was kind of the beginning of the City League and truly the reasoning behind it?
I mean, so origin story, I had an experience in Haiti with basketball, the way they organized the game, brought the whole town out, and I was a high school basketball player. This was about 10 years ago. I was about 28. I thought, hey, we play in men's leagues all the time in Indianapolis, but we don't have anything like this, something where we bring the best players out and that really create a platform or a stage to showcase them where the city comes out and there's food. And it was something that I thought Indianapolis needed to have, kind of like a Dust Bowl or a Rucker Park in New York City. And so we started 10 years ago organizing an event using basketball as a tool to facilitate community engagement. We've grown a little bit every year. This will be our 8th summer of basketball. Sorry, our 8th year of basketball, our 4th summer. We had women 4 years ago. And it's kind of grown a little bit every year, in big part to you and ISC. So,
well, I appreciate that, and I am thankful. This is the 5th year that I have been able to broadcast the championship game, and through the magic of radio, I will get from the Indiana State Fairgrounds to downtown and the Tech campus by 6:30 to be able to broadcast the women's game, followed by the men's championship game at 8. We're going to talk about the basketball in a second. But this has turned into so much more than basketball. What are some of the things that your organization has done to be able to give back to the community through the sport of basketball?
Yeah, so we try and organize a community activity every week that we're playing ball. So we did CareSource. Big shout out to CareSource, by the way. We call them our league leading sponsor. So they've given us financial support that has allowed us to grow big time over the last 3 years. And they do a lot of work, specifically on the Near East side. So we partnered with CareSource and the John Bonner Neighborhood Centers to have a back-to-school night 2 weeks ago where had enough school supplies for about 1,000 kids, backpacks, everything they need. There was immunizations, sports physicals. The Ball State women's basketball team came out and helped pass out those the different resources that were available. We've done financial literacy classes. We put on art competitions, really whatever's going on in the city, we try and platform it. There's a lot of energy around basketball, so we just try and invite the people out who are already doing good work and help them, give them more of a platform and help share our energy so people can come out and participate in whatever they're trying to do.
All right, so now let's talk about the basketball in and of itself. And the first year that I was a part of this, it was when it was played in the old March date. Because of COVID, it moved to the summer, and you quickly realized, hey, we're better off being a summer league. We get a better caliber of player, and so you've kept it as a summer league each of the last 4 years. But I remember Darius Adams coming back from China because that league had shut down early, understandably so. he's scoring 30 and 35 points per game in China, and he's coming over and dominating in your league. He's in the championship game tonight. Marcus Teague is in the championship game tonight. But if you want to name drop, feel free, whether they're playing in the title tilt or not. Who are some of the stars, the most recognizable names that people could have seen play in front of like 400 or 500 people all summer long?
Yeah, so Taylor Persons, Aaron Henry played. Actually, Aaron Henry's team might be in the championship game tonight if he didn't get hurt. Trayvon Blewett, Devontae Smith-Rivera, Matt Howard's played in the past, Krishan Hopkins, Greg Foster, John Hart. On the women's side, a new addition this year, actually, who's playing tonight, Kim Roberson, who was an Indiana All-Star Cathedral. Then she was two-time All-Big Ten defensive team at IU. Portia Green, Bria Goss. We got a girl who just moved into Indianapolis earlier this summer. Her name's Maya Morris. She played at Mississippi State and West Virginia. She's 6'5". She'll be playing tonight with Bria. Mariah King out of Whitney Young in Chicago. She's actually Ball State women's assistant basketball coach right now. Jasmine McGee played at IU. Sharika Webb, former Purdue guard. So we've got like the who's who of Central Indiana basketball for the last 15, 20 years.
Let's face it, Austin, women's basketball has never been cooler in this city than it is right now, and you can thank Caitlin Clark for that. But frankly, before that, it was always more important to you. There's other places in the country that will have these leagues and cash tournaments and cash prizes on the men's side. There aren't many that do that on the women's side. Why was this so important to you?
I mean, I think there was a real appetite for it. I grew up in Lafayette. I told this story last year, but I grew up in Lafayette in the mid-'90s when Purdue basketball was really big. Stephanie White, Yukari Figs, the team that Katie Douglas won the national championship in 1999. My dad used to take me to those games, partially because it cost $1 to get in. It was a lot more affordable for him. But I grew up really looking up to those women's players. So, and then I grew up, I was at the state title game when Bria Goss hit the game winner over Skylar Diggins in South Bend, Washington. So I've always had an eye on the women's game, and I knew there was an opportunity. They didn't have the same they don't have the same opportunities to play after they're done with organized basketball. So we had some ladies that wanted to organize a women's league, and we had the resources to do it. And so once Bria Goss and Stephanie Bavunga and Aaron Harris got involved, it really took off. And I think our fans enjoy watching our women's games just as much as our men's games. So,
couple quick things, and then we let you go. All right, how much does it cost someone to show up tonight? And the crowds for the finals are always packed. So where do they need to go? When do they need to be there? And how much is it going to cost them?
Okay. We play at the Bonner Fitness and Learning Center. It's on the campus of Arsenal Tech High School. The address is 727 North Oriental Street. The women's game tips off at 6:30. Men's game will start approximately 8. I would get here maybe 20 minutes early, so around 6:10, to ensure that you get a good seat for the women's game, and then don't leave, because if you get up, you're probably going to lose your seat for the rest of the night.
And admission costs how much? There you go.
Free to get in. Yep.
And if you cannot make it, iscsportsnetwork.com, Twitter, and YouTube, and you will hear the exact same voice you're hearing right now describing all the action. My friend, I'll see you in a couple hours. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
You got it. Austin Taylor, City League. It's something that was started for basketball. It has grown into something bigger. But make no mistake, the basketball is really good. And again, we're talking about $14K on the line. So you got entertainment options. You can come watch Johnny Utah play the bass at the Indiana State Fair. You can go see some hoop down on the campus of Tech High School. Or do both. Just follow me around town. Stop by this afternoon. I am here until 6. I'll be heading downtown and yapping into a microphone yet again by 6:30. We got to get you to break. 1 hour down, 2 hours left to go. We'll talk more Olympics when given the opportunity. We'll talk some World's Game and Indiana's team when we come back on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
We are back at the Indiana State Fair. Greg Rakestraw in for JMV. It is still The Ride on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And we are next to the Hoosier Lottery free stage. And the band is loosening up. And, well, there's a little bit more of an attention than, say, there would normally be because, well, one of the guys in said band, being Dogstar, is somewhat famous. So get out here and see the group at 7:30 tonight. This is where our location is. This is the second show on The Fan today that we have had from the Indiana State Fairgrounds. Jake and Jimmy and Query and company were over at the Dairy Bar with our friends at the American Dairy Association of Indiana earlier today. Every Saturday morning is normally where you hear me on this radio frequency, hosting Soccer Saturday. And the first person that you get to hear on that show, other than me, and you know the voice guy, and it says things about like Ford and community health, that would be the head coach of the Indy 11 in Sean McAuley, who joins us now about 19 hours removed from a much-needed victory in 1-0 fashion over Rhode Island. Good afternoon, my friend. How you doing?
All good, thank you, Greg.
All right, now, as you can tell, again, when I talk to Sean outside of Soccer Saturday, I try to make sure I bring in more people into the conversation than just our avid Soccer Saturday listeners. So Sean has now been in the States for the better part of the last 20 years. You can tell from his accent, not exactly from the U.S. So, Sean, I ask you this question as the band starts loosening up in the background. How many state fairs have you been to in your days with the Portland Timbers, working for Minnesota United, maybe other teams? Are you much of a state fair connoisseur?
I've always said that I want to go to one. I've never been to one, so I think the Indiana State Fair is probably going to be my first.
Well, there is this wonderful thing, not this week, you have no time, playing from Wednesday through Sunday, but then you're off for 13 days. I would think next week is your perfect chance to check that box off of life's bucket list, my friend.
I'm definitely going to give it a go, and I'll probably enjoy all the food that's available there.
They do have a nice pint or two you could have. I'm not sure if most of the food would meet the training requirements from a player standpoint, but you're not worried about that as the head coach anyway. All right, let's get to the soccer part of the conversation. Just your thoughts on what you saw from your team, again, in your first league win dating back to June last night.
I thought we started really well. I thought the commitment and energy of the players right from the first whistle, I think we had a chance within the first 30 seconds, was fantastic. And it's what we needed to do because of, the previous game. And I'm never one for looking back, but I felt as though we needed to reflect on that to make sure that the supporters went home happy.
Obviously, the game plan changed for you in a couple of different times. You want to be able to make those subs as you deem they need to be. You had to make two from an injury standpoint. So to replace one of your best players in Cam Lindley all of 60 minutes in, how did that change what you wanted to accomplish a night ago?
Like you said, it's difficult because you don't really want to change for injury's sake. You want to change tactically if you could. And doing it so early meant that, we were, restricted in the changes that we needed to make later on. But I want to, credit to all the players that come on, for us. Lawrence went on the field and did really well. So when we lose Cam, that was a disappointment, but then it's an opportunity for the next one going in.
Well, Lawrence obviously was dealing with injury and came back from that. His was not a long-term injury. Two players that played last night, clearly, one was a month and a half. The other was nearly a year, albeit his second match back after returning last Friday. So let's start with Aiden Quinn. Simply put, his return to the lineup allows you to do what? What are things that he does that maybe nobody else on your roster can do?
It's really important that, when you're looking at players and trying to recruit players, the one thing that it's very difficult to judge is game knowledge and leadership. And he brings game knowledge and leadership to the group. He really is a vocal leader as well, but leads by example. And, more often than not, he makes the right decisions on the field. And, we as a coaching staff and a group of players, if we're all on the same page, then, that leads to success. And he allows, to brings us all together when, we're trying to work things on the training field with the players. Once we cross that white line, for the game, he's the one that really can carry out the message for the rest of the group.
Well, I mentioned those injuries, and I think that may have changed maybe what your playing plan was for him. Did you think he was 90 minutes fit going into last night, or did, again, the other kind of injuries that happened around it kind of dictate he had to play more an evening ago?
I wasn't planning on playing him 90 minutes. If we look at what we do when the players have, 8 weeks off in the off season, we generally ease them back into 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60, 75, then lead to a full 90. He's been out for over a year, and he managed to get 45 minutes at Charleston, full 90. And what credit to all the other staff that we've got, and the professionalism of the player. If he recovers really well, he'll probably become available for the weekend's game as well.
Again, Sean McAuley, head coach of the Indy 11 winners against Rhode Island last night, 1-0. The turnaround is Sunday at 5 when they take on New Mexico United. The other player that came back last night, again, in a much more expected kind of short burst, Jack Blake, who is still your leading goal scorer in the season, even though his last tally came back in early June. Your thoughts about him coming back, and again, what his return means to your team going forward?
Yeah, really pleased that he got on the field. I was hoping to play him for a little bit longer, but the way the game was going and the substitutes that we had to make through injuries sort of determined that he'd play a little bit less than what we'd hoped. But seeing him on the field, you see that it gives the team a different look in terms of creativity, especially in the attacking third. And he's only on for the last 10, 15 minutes, and he gets a chance at goal and he creates something. And same with the Romario when he came on. If you look at it, Augustine probably should have squared a ball to him, which would have got his first goal, but he's had chances, should have got a penalty. So getting these bodies back is going to be good for us for the rest of the season.
The other guy that I wanted to make sure we mention, again, you and I have conversations about him seemingly more often than not. And again, knowing that we have a bit of a larger audience in this format than we normally would on the Saturday morning show, your goalkeeper is Hunter Sult. He's 22 years of age. He's from Anchorage, Alaska. He's on loan from Portland Timbers. He is 6'7", and on his 2 tremendous saves last night, he used every bit of that 6'7" frame to keep balls out of the net. Your thoughts about what he did for you last night and the continued growth you see from him literally on a match-by-match basis?
It was fantastic last night with the saves that he made. And the game-changing saves. He's won points for us, which is, it's very rare you hear that the goalkeeper can win points because they don't put the ball in the back of the net. But, you've got to realise if you concede a goal, you've got to get 2 others in the other end to win the game. So he's been fantastic for us. And the growth, I think, individually for him, is the fact that he conceded 5 goals in 45 minutes 4 or 5 days earlier. And, to get a clean sheet, I was really pleased for a 22-year-old to not let that weigh on him, and also then produce a performance which was hugely valuable to the team. I thought was excellent. And he's got a really good future in the game, and I'm just really pleased that Indy 11 is going to be part of that when it moves forward. We'll get to see it in the next sort of 10, 15 years of where he ends up. But I'm sure that his time with Indy 11 will be seen as really, really important for the rest of his career.
Obviously, last night, for those that watched the broadcast, there was a penalty, or maybe even 2, that frankly were missed, I thought, by the referee in last night's match. So what was a 1-0 victory could have easily been 2, could have easily been 3 in last night's game. You were wonderfully political, and you can frankly be that way when you still won the match, in terms of comments after the match. Now, after the fact, are you clipping up stuff like that, having a conversation with the league office? Kind of walk us through the protocol when you're like, hey, we think there were some calls missed. What sort of action can you take, Coach, in a scenario like that?
Yeah, well, what we would do, and we've done it before, we thought that when Tampa scored their first goal a couple of weeks ago, the player was offside. So we have to cut the video and send in our evidence and our report. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One, we want the league to know that, there's been game-changing decisions that have been missed. And we want the referees to get feedback because that improves them as well. And the other thing, the reason why, we want to let the referees know is sometimes we have to look at it again because the referee might not have seen it. And my biggest complaint last night was, because obviously the broadcast, your view, the two benches view, and everybody who sits on that side of the field, could see that the Augustine Williams penalty kick was a penalty kick, right, and the linesman right there. So I said to the referee, listen, if you're unsighted, we're going to send a report in, and if you're unsighted, we'll have a look at it, and I can understand that, but the linesman's got to help you. And it's the old-fashioned way that the linesman would help. He'd walk onto the field with the flag across his chest, and now they're all wide up and they can speak to each other. It's really easy for the linesman to say, I think it's a penalty.
Again, Sean McAuley, head coach of the Indy 11, our guest, Greg Rakestraw, filling in. This will air on Soccer Saturday, but you are currently listening to The Ride on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. New Mexico, top team in the West, coming up on Sunday afternoon. I know you're just shifting your attention to them, but what strikes you about them as being why they're the best team in the West? What impresses you about them in film study so far?
They've been really consistent in the way they play, and that's the thing that they've had the success from. They've got a solid lineup, a really good attacking formation. They play with a single striker who links play up and brings people into the game. The two wide players come inside and the two fullbacks push on. So they're very attack-minded, and they get numbers forward really quickly. The thing that we've got to do when we look at the opposition, we always think about where's our opportunity. We have to continue playing the same way we did on Wednesday night. We have to go at them with the same hunger, desire, and speed of play and desire to score a goal as what we did on Wednesday. And if we do that and we put the opponent under pressure, then hopefully we can take his chances and get a few referee decisions that maybe go our way, and we'll come out with 3 points again.
I'm going to ask you about the Open Cup, and I know you're not thinking about the Open Cup right now, but again, because of the forum we have, I'm going to ask you about it. Knowing it's not your next match, it's not the match after that, it is the match after that, and you have 13 days between Sunday's match against New Mexico before you play Las Vegas on the 24th, and then go from there to Kansas City. Again, knowing we've got a lot of non-soccer fans that are listening to this conversation right now, the importance of your team playing in an Open Cup semifinal, potentially playing in a championship, potentially hosting a championship match after that. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the club?
I think the good thing for me personally is we get to take a group of players and we get to challenge ourselves against the best in the country. And that's when you look at the opposition that we're playing against and how much money they spent in putting that squad together. We know that that's going to be a real good challenge for us. And that's why we're all in it. In terms of everything else, we've got to really dedicate everything that we do to the club and its supporters, because without them, there is no us. So for us to get to the semi-final, I just want everybody who gets the chance to watch it, listen to it, be there to really, really enjoy the occasion. And hopefully we can get a result and we do it all again. It's that simple. It's really about, the club and its supporters and, rewarding them for all they do for us. And maybe we can go one more step.
We joked about checking out the Indiana State Fair next week. I hope you do. Final thing before we let you go, again, you do have a little bit of time to kind of stop and smell the roses, a 13-day break from Sunday's match to Saturday the 24th. When you've had time to not be on pitch side or be on the training ground, what have you liked about living in Indianapolis so far these last 7 months?
It's fantastic. I live pretty close to the training ground, so that's good. And just generally being able to walk around and get. I live quite close to the Monon Trail, so I get the exercise while also being able to sample some food and some drinks. So it's a little bit of everything for me in terms of being here. The people and the area has been fantastic, and if we can keep winning games, that makes everything look a lot better.
I can tell you I have seen Coach do a beer mile or two in terms of a bike ride and a pint to celebrate once he's gotten off the Monon Trail from time to time. Sean, thanks for the time the day after a match. Good luck this weekend. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks, Greg.
You got it, Sean McAuley, head coach of the Indy 11. And while that was going on, I'm sure James was doing his best to kind of pot one of us up and then pot me back up. It appears that the sound check for now has come to an end. The band had kind of asked for a little bit of space. They were doing that. Now fans have been welcomed back to fly to their seats to get as close to the free stage as possible. Why am I describing all of this to you in detail? Well, it's the reason that we are broadcasting live from the Indiana State Fairgrounds today. It is to remind you that the band Dog Star is playing the Hoosier Lottery free stage at 7:30. Who is Dog Star, you might ask? Well, Robert Mailhouse is a member of the band. Brett Domrose is a member of the band, and maybe you know who those guys are. Maybe you're familiar with their work. But the bassist is a gentleman named Keanu Reeves. That might just be part of the reason why. Yes, John Wick is playing the bass tonight at 7:30 here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. So, there's a little bit of a crowd that has built up around this, and hence the reason why we are broadcasting our show from here today. Now, while Sean and I were talking soccer, I was trying to sneak a view as best I could of Olympic men's basketball. It had been going a little bit better. Not right now. With a minute left to go in the third quarter, the United States is trailing Serbia 71-61. Now 72-61. Nikola Jokic is getting just a little bit of a breather. I'm sure he'll be back out there to start the fourth quarter. I think the Americans had gotten it down to about 5 or 6, but it is now back to 11, and Serbia has the ball late in the third quarter. France beat Germany in the other semifinal earlier, so the host nation awaits the winner of this match in the championship coming up this weekend. But right now, it would not involve Team USA as they'd be playing in the bronze medal match. And Serbia just hit a 3 and potentially a 4-point play to make it a 15-point lead. 75-61, Serbia is leading with just a few ticks left to go in quarter number 3. It is not looking good for the American men. They've got 10 minutes and change to try to figure out a way to slow down Serbia, which they have yet to do. Serbia is on track to hang 100 in 40 minutes on Team USA and potentially make this a non-gold medal trip for USA men's basketball. And while I have not been watching every second of it, it doesn't appear that Tyrese Halliburton's gotten any run so far in today's game. So we can talk Olympics if you would like to. It has obviously been a very guest-heavy show so far today on the program. That is going to be the case for the entirety of the 5 o'clock hour. Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59 will join us. Speaking of the Olympics, Rajeev Ram of Carmel and of Olympic men's doubles silver medalist status in tennis will be joining us in the next hour of the show. And we're going to bring you back the Carson Steel conversation that we had at approximately 3:30. We will shift the conversation to football and to Indianapolis Colts football for the first time today with my partner on the postgame show, Bill Brooks. He will join us in the next segment of the show. After that, for the remainder of the 4 o'clock hour, it is open phone lines for you at 317-239-1070, on Twitter at Greg Rakestraw, or you can, again, email the show to greg at 1070thefan.com. Any of those subjects we're talking to as far as guests, they are certainly open to you if you want to have a conversation with yours truly. And, yes, this is the ride without JMV. And we'll take this quick time out, and Bill Brooks will join us next here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
And the beat goes on, yeah. And the beat goes on.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now, I have been around this program long enough to know that sometimes we play music for a very specific reason. If you're a regular listener, you probably are of the age, you know this is Lita Ford that is playing in the background. And while tonight we're at the Indiana State Fairgrounds on the Hoosier Lottery free stage because Dog Star, featuring Keanu Reeves, is playing at 7:30. Well, at 7:30 next Saturday, if you don't want to go to, say, the Indianapolis Colts, Arizona Cardinals second preseason game, maybe the best thing on your social calendar would be to come see Lita Ford here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, and we've got tickets for you for that show. So caller number 5, I don't feel like making James do all the work that John does when he says 9. Caller 5 at 317-239-1070. You're going to get free tickets to go see Lita Ford in action a week from Saturday on the same stage that Keanu Reeves will be gracing coming up at about 7:30. Again, Dog Star is the band that is playing tonight at 7:30. Now, next Saturday night, my social calendar is full. I've got a couple of different dance partners, in fact. The first one would be Rick Venturi, but the one that I'll close out the bar with next Saturday night, we do this a handful of times a year, working that late-night shift. It is Bill Brooks of the Indianapolis Colts Radio Network, not to mention Ring of Honor member, because I know how much he loves me bringing that up whenever I have the opportunity to do so. Billy, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing well, my friend. Yes, we will close it out on next Saturday evening.
We'll have the Sunday afternoon show first, and this will be the shift you and I will be used to working this year, very similar to last year. You and I have a lot of 4 to 7 get-togethers on Sunday afternoon. What are you most looking forward to about this Sunday's game?
Well, this Sunday's game is going to be exciting. I think not knowing exactly if the Stars are going to play or not, I think Shane will make that announcement probably later on this week, and then the game will happen, of course, Sunday. But the thing I'm looking for, whoever's playing out there, I just want to see execution. You want to see execution. You want to see, especially the young guys going out there can perform and make plays when the lights are on. That's what you want to see out there for the young guys, because it's going to be their first game in the National Football League stadium against another opponent besides themselves during training camp practice. So you want to see how they perform out there when they might have a little nerves as far as being nervous out there on the football field. And, if they can make plays, that's good for them. You want to make it difficult for the coaches to make decisions. And the only way you're going to do that is going out there and making plays out there in the football field.
Did the Josh Downs injury from yesterday change at all your view as to how many reps guys should play, need to play on a game like Sunday? Does that affect it in any way, shape, or form?
I don't think it's going to affect it. I think, I would like to see the guys out there hopefully performing, but you have to think, after this game on Sunday, they're going to have a joint practice with the Cardinals. I think you will see a lot of reps from the ones in the joint practice. That way the coaches can control a lot more what they actually want to see from these guys. Put them in situations where they know they have to make a play, or put them in uncomfortable situations and see how they respond to those situations. So I don't think it changes things, but of course you want to be safe because you want these guys as fresh and as healthy going into the first regular season game.
Obviously, Bill, I ask you about every position on the football team, but I know wide receiver's a bit different. And talking to a guy that did it so well for 11 years in the National Football League. So the person that obviously gets the immediate benefit of the injury to Josh Downs is Gould, the rookie from Oregon State, that was brought in, frankly, more as a punt and kick returner, but as an insurance policy for that slot position. And here we are. He's taking reps with the ones yesterday, no practice today. You've been out there at every practice just like I have been. Specifically about Gould, what have you seen that you have liked from him so far?
Well, the one thing that I've seen from Gould is his speed. I mean, he has unbelievable speed. He's quick, especially in small areas. He's very quick. He gets deep, gets behind the defenders. So I like what I see in that sense, but also he is a rookie, so there's some things that, of course, he has to learn, and that's going to happen over time. He needs to experience, get out there, have an opportunity to make some mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and build off of those days coming up. So I like what I see from him, and it's going to be exciting to see what he can do now given an opportunity because of the Josh Downs injury.
Has there been a guy in camp, and not to be wide receiver, it can be any position, offense, defense, special teams, et cetera, there normally is a guy that you just kind of say, man, that guy's everywhere. He's in on every play, and he's not normally a guy that we're talking about. Has there been a guy that has popped to you like that in these first 2 weeks in Westfield so far, Bill?
Well, there have been a couple of guys that have popped. I mean, one guy, the guy we just talked about that's injured, Josh Downs, I thought he was having an excellent training camp. I thought he was doing a nice job out there. Another guy that I thought was having a good camp also is Jalen Jones, defensive back, out there now that's playing and getting a lot of playing time. So I think he had a good camp. I really think Julian Blackmon's had a good camp. I think he's been playing extremely well at strong safety and at free safety. So those guys have been, popping to me. But another guy that has popped, but, no one really noticed it because he's a backup quarterback, is Flacco. I think Flacco's having a good camp, just out there playing, taking what the defense gives him, putting the ball in the right spot, putting the ball in small windows, and just doing a nice job. So those are some of the guys that stood out to me watching practice this past couple of weeks.
My post-game show host partner on the Ascension St. Vincent Radio Network this year, that would be Bill Brooks, Colts Ring of Honor member, joining us here on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. It's Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV. The ride at the Indiana State Fair on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Let's face it, we are hopeful not to see as much of the backup quarterback, nowhere close to as much of the backup quarterback this year as we did last year. But if we see Joe Flacco in a game, how do you feel he is different, better, et cetera, than the job that Gardner Minshew did, which I thought was solid a year ago? How is Joe Flacco a different player than what we saw from Gardner Minshew?
Well, both of them have good veteran experience and veteran savvy out there in the football field, but I think what you get in Joe Flacco, you get someone that has a stronger arm, someone that can get the ball downfield a little bit more at ease, I would say, than Gardner Minshew. Gardner could get the ball down the field, but Joe Flacco still has some juice in that arm to get the ball downfield. Joe is very accurate. He does a good job out there having a command of the huddle. And I think he does a real good job of just reading defense, taking what they give him, and just trying to move the ball down the field. Joe's been around for a long time, so he's seen a lot of different defenses. So there's nothing that's going to be out there that could fool him out there in the game. So I think, that savviness, that experience, he'll be fine as a backup for the Colts if needed. I'm hoping Joe, only time I want to see Joe on the football field as far as in that rectangle there is when they call a timeout, Anthony comes over to the sideline, he's there just listening what's going on, or out there in pregame warm-ups. That's the only time I want to see Joe Flacco on the field because I want Anthony to stay healthy and play all 17 weeks.
How about this, Bill? How about if the person that gets to announce the majority of Joe Flacco's plays for the season is me? If that's the case, with the preseason, we're going to be in good shape, I think, for this football team. And now I think we have set a Colts content record. We have gone 11 minutes without significantly talking about Anthony Richardson in the conversation. So let's rectify that now.
Okay.
What are you seeing different in him in say, I'm not sure if it's fair to compare preseason last year to preseason this year, but are there things you're seeing from Anthony in practice that maybe even seeing in that brief 4 or 5 game stretch we saw him last year? What are you seeing in terms of the natural progression, even with fewer reps in year one to year number 2?
I think what I've seen from year 1 to year 2, just in a very, very small sample size of both, from year 1 and in year 2, is I think he's being efficient, meaning that, you know what, if something's not downfield, I'm taking the underneath throw. I want to try to get the ball downfield, but you know what? They got that covered. Let me dump it down to Jonathan Taylor, or let me dump it underneath to a tight end or to Josh Downs underneath. I think I've seen some of that this year thus far, and I've seen, especially in the red zone, he's putting the ball in a couple of tight windows. And I like to see that. And that's what you like to see, because in the red zone, it's going to be very tight down there. It's going to be hard to pass the ball down there because it's going to be tight coverage. The defense does not have to defend a whole big field. They have to 10 yards in the end zone and however far you are from the goal line. So it's going to be tight coverage down there. And he's done a nice job, I think, in the red zone. And I think he adds that dimension where a defense is going to have to be cognizant of where Anthony Richardson is on the field, which, of course, will be in the backfield. But in saying that, you can't double anyone out there in the field, because if you do, Anthony's just going to run, it's going to score. So we saw that in the game against Houston last year at Houston, where he ran around the corner there, scored that touchdown. That's when he got the concussion, but he did score. So I think he adds another dimension and another weapon out there in the football field for the Colts, especially when they get down the red zone.
That's 13 minutes of solid football conversation. Tack about 2 hours and 40 minutes of that. That's what Bill and I get to do on a week-by-week basis starting on Sunday afternoons. Now let's get to the other stuff. I am literally maybe 500 feet from a stage in which Keanu Reeves will be playing on tonight as part of his band Dog Star. Do you have a favorite Keanu Reeves movie role?
Oh, you know what? Let me see. Keanu Reeves. I would say give me Speed.
Okay, not a bad choice. Was he?
For me. That's for me.
That's okay. There's no wrong answer here. Was he a believable quarterback as Shane Falco for the Washington Sentinels, Bill?
You know what? I liked him in that. I liked him in the replacements as well. I liked him in the replacements. Replacements was good. I liked him.
John Favreau impressed me as a linebacker. I think Bateman could have played in the strike season '87 if he was given the opportunity. So while I've been watching that, I've also been watching the Olympics. Team USA men are down 86-84 with 2.5 minutes to play. They really haven't led the entire game. They got a chance to take the lead this time down the floor. How much of the Olympics have you been watching?
I've been watching some Olympics, and I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think they just tied it up.
They did. They took the lead. Hit a three to take the lead, 87-86.
Okay. But I've been watching Olympics, watching some track and watching all the events, gymnastics and, of course, basketball. So it's been fun. I enjoy the Olympics. I think it's a great time. I mean, looking at these athletes out there, they spent all that time, 4 years, trying to get ready for Olympics, and it comes down to one event, going out there executing. So that is a lot of pressure on those individuals, and it's fun to see the joy that a lot of them have as far as when they win. And it's good to see the NBA players having all this excitement and passion for the game, going out there playing for your country.
And final thing before we let you go, and by the way, Team USA, as if they were shot out of a cannon, they have scored their last 3 times down the floor. They now lead 91-86 with 1:41 to play. Folks, if you're just tuning in, they were down 15 about 10 minutes ago. They now lead by 5 with 101 seconds to play, 91-86. Since I am at the State Fair, and, Bill, you have more or less been a Hoosier for the last 35 years at this point. How many times have you visited the Indiana State Fair over the years?
I think I've been down to the State Fair 2 or 3 times. I've been down there. A lot of times it's during this time of the year, and it's football time, so I'm either doing something with football and miss a day or 2 here or there. But I would say 2 or 3 times I've been down to the State Fair.
What would your favorite fried State Fair food be, Bill?
Pickle.
Good choice. I'm next to the deep fried Oreo booth. I'll have a full report for you, by the way, when I see you on Sunday afternoon. Yeah.
Ooh, that is good. That's good.
I'm not going to get any slimmer on camera before Sunday, being at the fairgrounds. I can tell you that much right now. Bill Brooks joining us again. I'm fortunate enough to get to do the preseason television with Rick Venturi, Lara Overton, Sunday at 1 o'clock. I get to do that twice. over the course of 20 Sundays, preseason games, regular season games, and hopefully more. For the first time in 4 years, some postseason games. Bill and I are together after each and every one of them on great radio stations throughout the Midwest, but right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, not to mention Country 97.1 Hank FM as well. My friend, thank you so much for the time. I'll see you on Sunday afternoon. Actually, I'll see you at practice tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow, Bill.
Yes, see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Greg. Appreciate it.
Bill Brooks, our latest guest on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So, 91-86, Team USA leads. We will take a break. That game might be over by the time we come back. We are guest heavy from 5 until 6. Mike Chappell, Rajeev Ram, and we're going to re-rack Carson Steel from earlier in the show. So if you've got something you want to say, you got about a 7 or 8 minute window in the next segment of the show. Dial us up now, 317-239-1070. Hit me up on Twitter, at Greg Rakestraw. We're live at the Indiana State Fair, and you're listening to The Ride without JMV on this Thursday afternoon on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Remember, mum is the word.
Certainly, but
Mum.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Let's take care of a little business, shall we? Race of the day, you just heard going into that commercial break. Congratulations to Jordan Moran. He had the winning horse that was Vern's Kenny B. You would have won $5.80 on a $2 bet. The $2 exacta netted you $19, and the 50-cent trifecta gets you $11.65. That is our race of the day. Listen to it on the Ride and on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. So now let's get to what just happened as far as Team USA. They were down 15 late in the third quarter. They outscore Serbia 32-15 in the fourth quarter. A three made by Steph Curry, his 9th of the game. He went 9 of 14 from three-point range. Curry finishes with 36 points. Late in the game, Kevin Durant on a clear-out as the U.S. is up by 2 in the final 30 seconds. And on a team full of stars, when you have the option of, let's run a jump shot for Curry, let's run a shot for LeBron James. No, it's a clear out for KD. And what does he do? He pulls up and drains one from 19 feet to make it a 4-point game. 2 late free throws by Steph Curry with 8 seconds left to go. The U.S. is on to the gold medal game. They beat Serbia 95-91. So it will be U.S. versus France. It'll be a road game for Team USA against Victor Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert, etc. for France. I'm not sure how large that venue is. They will primarily be rooting against Team USA, such as the joy of being the host nation. We get that home court advantage 4 years from now. But the United States, they beat Serbia 95-91. They will play for the gold medal match. That will be Saturday at 3:30. You can watch that locally on Channel 13 as that one will be on NBC. Did Tyrese Halliburton play today's game? Unfortunately, no. He nor Jason Tatum saw the floor today for Team USA. In terms of other players that put forth a tremendous effort, LeBron James, 16 points, 6 of 9 shooting, 12 rebounds, 10 assists. So a triple-double for LeBron today. And Joel Embiid, who has found himself at the end of that playing rotation for Steve Kerr. Well, today, Joel played more and had a huge day. Embiid goes 8 of 11 from the floor, 19 points, 4 rebounds for Joel Embiid. James, Embiid, and Curry, the 3 players that finished the game in double figures. Nikola Jokic had 17 points, had 11 assists, went 0 of 6 from three-point range. The other familiar name that you would probably know from the Serbian Olympic team is, as we would say in Indianapolis, the other Bogdanovic. Bojan played for us with the Indiana Pacers. Bogdan Bogdanovic, who has spent time with the Hawks and Kings amongst other teams, he ended up with 20 points in today's game. But again, Serbia led really for the entirety of the game until about the final 3 minutes. There was a run by Team USA late, a 7-point burst where they went from 2 down to 5 up. They hang on, they win. Both semifinal games for both France over Germany and the U.S. over Serbia were won by margins of 4 points. Just because the U.S. survived today, it is going to be far from easy to beat France in Paris on Saturday afternoon. The United States men are into the gold medal match. They win this one by a score of 95-91. If you've missed any of the show so far today, where you been? Shame on you. We have had Carson Steel on the program. You're going to have a chance to hear him again coming up in a little bit. Austin Taylor of the City League, Indy 11 head coach Sean McAuley, and Bill Brooks was spectacular in the last segment of the show. Coming up in the next hour of the program, as advertised, Carson Steel one more time, but fresh interviews with both Mike Chappell as well as, speaking of Olympics, tennis silver medalist Rajeev Ram of Carmel. He will join us at approximately 5:25. My name is Greg Rakestraw. JMV is getting a well-deserved day off. He is back tomorrow. And we are on site at the Indiana State Fair. We are right next to the Hoosier Lottery free stage. Well, there's been a little more commotion than there normally would be for an act at the free stage without an event taking place until 7:30. That is because the band is Dog Star that is playing at 7:30, and their bassist, Shane Falco, John Wick, whatever the lead character's name was in Speed, whichever one of Bill or Ted he was in The Excellent Adventure, Keanu Reeves is playing tonight at the Indiana State Fair at 7:30. Get here and join us. We're back in a matter of moments on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Bill, I just have one question for you. What color is an orange? Ted, you bonehead. Its color is the same as its name, just like a lemon.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So does that mean he was Bill? I mean, that movie came out when I was in the 6th grade, so I remember it well in terms of said excellent adventure. But I had forgotten which one. I knew it was, I had a 50-50 shot of being right. He was Bill or Ted, one of the two. Why are we playing random Keanu Reeves movie clips today? Well, because the dude's like 500 or 1,000 feet away from me. And that's legally as close as I can get. Just kidding about that. He and his band Dog Star, that being Keanu Reeves, are playing the Indiana State Fairgrounds tonight, are playing the Hoosier Lottery free stage, hence why we are set up in line of sight to said free stage. Our program continues until 6 o'clock here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Keanu gets a reaction when he has been out on stage and people are taking pictures, saying hello, etc. It's very similar to when Mike Chappell walks by a practice field at Indianapolis Colts training camp. I'll experience the exact same thing tomorrow morning when I see him next. Hello, Chappie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Impressions as to what we have seen at Colts practice so far these last couple of weeks together in Westfield?
Overall, I mean, optimistic, I guess. I still, and we sit and talk in the press room all the time. None of us really understand what they're doing at free safety, which they don't either, or they wouldn't keep trying to find the right person. I wrote about it today, and guys have written about it. It's not like they're going to have to spend 1 year $10 million on somebody who has experience and has done it. So I don't understand why, when you've got a team capable of contending for something, AFC South, whatever, how you've left yourself vulnerable at such a, for people who don't understand the value of free safety, go back and look at the first play Houston had against the Colts in January. I mean, Nico Collins running down the middle field with poor Juju Brents, which he got beat at the line, but he's got to have deep help. So I don't understand it. It's not my team, so they can do what they want. I just don't understand it because the investment wouldn't be immense at all. Other than that, I mean, I'll tell you, the most encouraging thing, Latu can play. When I'm thinking the best players in camp thus far, Josh Downs, hope he's only out 4 weeks. We'll see. Julian Blackman and Latu. Latu's been whipping people, and we'll see how Samson Ebukam's injury impacts his play in the rotation. He probably gets more time now, probably. But, boy, he flashes, and that's what you want to see. When you've got a playmaker, either a receiver or a pass rusher, you want to see him flash in camp. And, boy, he's done that. So, very encouraged. I've seen enough of Richardson. My big thing coming into camp on Richardson is his shoulder an issue because they can spin it however they want, but he had an unscheduled day off at the end of minicamp. He did. So it's very encouraging that he's not missed any time and has looked okay, has had, erratic moments, but that's who he is right now. So by and large, encouraged. You never want to see players injured significantly in camp. It happens all across the league. But to lose Ebukam that early is awful, and hopefully Josh Downs isn't out very long.
In terms of Sunday's game and starters playing, starters not playing, again, what you and I think is relevant, it's what Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard think. Do you think the defense and offense are treated any differently? In other words, could you see a scenario where the offense, because of Richardson not getting the snaps we wanted to see last year, they get a couple of series, but the starting defense, which is largely back intact, gets a free pass? How do you see that playing out?
Well, I guess, but then Latu needs to play.
True.
So yeah, I would think there's a good likelihood that they all play. Not extensively. I think last year Richardson played, I think it was 3 series, 29 plays. I think it was an interception first series and then a punt and then a missed 28-yard field goal, for crying out loud, by Matt Gay. Didn't play the next game. Then he played the entire first half, the last preseason game. I think they're going to play some. Steichen sort of was certainly evasive. Said, well, we'll talk to the players and tell you guys on Friday. But I thought he indicated that they were going to play some. And it's funny, Rick Venturi and I, he just is amazed that
Right.
these guys don't play more. I mean, he does. And I'm not quite as renegade as he is on this because I'm not sure I'd play Jonathan Taylor. I mean,
Right.
unless Taylor needs to be out there for the first start to get his varsity letter, I just don't think I play him. We always had this discussion with Edgerrin about how much, and he basically said none. I would like the first hit to not be, September 8th against Houston.
Sure.
But, boy, my main skill players, especially after seeing Downs go down, I really don't expose them to much, if at all.
I get Mike Chappell, CBS 4, Fox 9, our guest, Greg Rakestraw, filling in for JMV. It's The Ride here on 93.5 and 107.5 at The Fan. Again, it's a different era from when you first started covering the team in terms of free agency. But even in the Peyton Manning, Bill Polian era, where there were years where this team literally had 4 or 5 other players, 4 or 5 players that had played anywhere else other than Indianapolis. Even in those years, I don't remember this many guys coming back and the roster looking as similar as it did from last year to this year. Just your thoughts on what that can mean for this football team, especially early in the season, Chap.
Well, it's always great to sign your own if they were the right guys to sign, and they certainly believe in those players. And I think most of those players, I could argue, of course you're going to re-sign them, because if you don't, it's easy to not re-sign somebody, but then who are you going to replace them with? So there were none of those guys that I really had a problem with. I mean, Kenny Moore and Grover, of course you extended Buck, you extended Zaire, and Pittman wasn't going anywhere. But, yeah, I'm okay with it. I was going to do some research on when the last time the Colts or any team brought all 22 guys back. First, I don't know how you would do it. It would be hard to do. And I just don't think anyone's done it, just because you're going to lose somebody. You're going to lose one guy whose contract's up and he's going to want more, or you don't want him back or whatever. It's truly an aberration that that's the case. And it's not because they didn't try. Keep in mind that, remember, they made a strong push for Danielle Hunter. I mean, a strong push. They offered him basically what Houston offered him. So that would, can you imagine the trickle effect had that happened? There's every chance, there's every reality you're not going to re-sign, or you're not going to draft Latu. So then what do you do? So, yeah, but it does show you how much faith or how much they're invested in the quarterback coming back and playing. And playing, I don't know, 15, 16 games, because the way he plays, he's probably going to miss a game. Same with Taylor. And whenever I mention Richardson coming back, I always mention Taylor. Those are their two really, really blue players on offense. Pittman's really, really good, but he's not those guys.
Sure.
And they were on the field for two plays last year. So they're really expecting that Taylor and Richardson are going to create monster problems for defenses. And if they're on the field, from what we've seen, we know Taylor can. I think they believe Taylor can approach, 2021. I don't know that they'll run the ball so much with him that he'll have chances to get 1,800 yards, because I think they're going to, the quarterback's going to get his share. But I've always said that if he gets that 5.2 yards a carry, because he's gonna if he stays healthy, we're gonna see those breakaway runs, because that's what he does. That's what those great running backs do. And again, if you look at teams with the great running backs or the great quarterbacks on those, they're a top 5 running team. Whether it's Buffalo or whomever, Chicago with Fields in the past. So I'm really interested in how this is going to play out. Defensively, you really hope that they can shore up a few things, free safety and all that. But, I'm really looking forward to Richardson and what he can do. And that's why I think they're going to play some in preseason. But, gosh, I don't know how much is enough. I don't know.
Forgive me for not knowing this immediately, but I assume you made the trip to Canton last weekend, or did you stay here?
No, I was there. Oh, I had to have a leg, hanging limp to not go to Canton when the Colts have somebody involved, because it's just such an experience. And pardon me if I start name dropping, I don't mean to, but it's such a great time for Freeney, for any player, and him being the latest. And then Jim Irsay has his reception at a country club that evening, and what I always really enjoy is all the number of former Colts who are there. There had to be 30 or 40 of them, with Peyton and Marvin and Edgerrin, and I'm talking to Justin Snow, and then I look down the way and there's Bob Sanders standing by himself. So I went down and talked to him for a few minutes, and he can. I tell you, I think he can still play. Now his body won't hold up, but he looks like, I tell you. I always said that if I'm ever going to fight in an alley, I want Bob Sanders to be my buddy, because he'd mop up. But it's just such a cool thing. And then you're standing there, and Michael Jordan walks in because he and Freeney are really close friends, and Marcus Allen and Richard Dent and all these guys, and it's just really, and Reggie was there, and we're hoping that maybe next year is with him and Adam Vinatieri, and he's eligible next year. So it's just a great thing, and it was really, really cool and important for Jim Irsay to be on stage to present Freeney for induction, because it's so important to him, the history of the game, the history of the franchise, and the fact that Freeney was the third player, after Marvin and Edgerrin, to ask the owner
right
to do and that's, I tell you, that's a big thing. It is. So it's just a cool experience, and it's kind of funny because we're all there with our own agendas, and Freeney was the first speech, and of course it was delayed like 90 minutes because it rained like a son of a gun. And once they started the ceremony and Freeney let off and got done with it, I didn't care what it did. It could have opened up
right.
like 40 days and 40 nights, as long as we get Freeney out of the way. But if you ever have a chance to go to the Hall of Fame and walk through it and see the bus room and all that, it's really worth your time.
As one of the few human beings that knows what the room is like, as you're talking about Hall of Fame candidacies, as much as I think Reggie Wayne is a no doubt about it Hall of Famer, here's the company he's trying to keep next year. Of the notables that were up this year, Antonio Gates, Jared Allen, Willie Anderson. Here's the newbies that are first-time eligible. And again, Chap knows this, but this is for the listening audience. Marshawn Lynch, Luke Kuechly, as he said, Adam Vinatieri, Marshall Yanda, Terrell Suggs, Eli Manning, amongst others. What do those negotiations look like when you guys get together over Super Bowl week?
And that's the difficult part. People need to understand that you only get 5 modern-era individuals every year. And it's a tough process. This will be Reggie's, 6th year. I'm losing track, which is never a good thing. It took Edgerrin 5 or 6 years to get in. And I know Reggie is frustrated beyond belief. I know he is. Hopefully, and I've made it known before. The fact I believe Andre Johnson is a Hall of Famer, but he never should have gone in before Reggie. He shouldn't have. Reggie's got a better resume. Reggie's postseason resume is Hall of Fame worthy on its own. So, but yeah, I mean, Vinatieri. I think Vinatieri should be a guy you stand up and say Adam Vinatieri and you sit down. But I've talked to people among the selectors, and they said, "Yeah, but he's a kicker." I'm thinking, "Are you kidding me? He won 2 Super Bowls, not by himself, but at the end of the game with his kicks." And what people need to remember about Vinatieri is that what if he doesn't make those 2 kicks against the Raiders in the Tuck game that started New England's Super Bowl run? I mean, I'm guessing the Patriots still do something. But what if they don't win that game? What if the Raiders win and things change and history changes? So Vinatieri, they always say, well, can you write the NFL game without this guy? Well, Vinatieri, you've got to. He's mentioned. He's got to be prominent. So I think he's first ballot. I think he's sort of no-brainer, but I get the vibes that won't be the case. I've seen some guys put out there their top 5 people for the next year's team and for next year's class, and he's not included. He's barely mentioned. And I just want to shake my head and said he played 24 years, and
right.
he's the all-time leading scorer. He's got multiple rings, and he won games, and he made kicks, and he won. He beat the Ravens 15-6 for crying out loud. So I don't know, but that's what makes it interesting. There's 50 of us. We all have our different views. A lot of times we agree. Many times we don't. But that's why it's a good process. Yes, it's a flawed process, but it's a long day, and we go through it. And I'm hoping that I can convince enough guys this time that Reggie Wayne, doggone it, deserves to be there with all those other people because his career says so, and to me, so does Vinatieri.
I agree with that, my friend. I'll see you at practice tomorrow. Thanks, Chappie.
Looking forward to it. Be well.
Mike Chappell, CBS 4, Fox 59. We'll talk more football. Carson Steel, of course, of Center Grove, now the Kansas City Chiefs to end the hour. But how about more Olympics? Rajeev Ram, Carmel, silver medalist, joins us next from the Indiana State Fair. It's The Ride on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. A 6-time Grand Slam champion, now twice an Olympic medalist, Rajeev Ram of Carmel joins us now. He is already back in North America. Big event going on in Montreal this week. I appreciate you taking 10 or so minutes, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be on the show with you.
Well, I know, of course, and I know that you had a chance to talk with Jake Query earlier this week on the station as well, so I appreciate you doing a second one of these. But to just be able to kind of put the phrase before your name, a 2-time Olympic medalist, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, look, it's something I'm hugely proud of, and especially because they came in 2 separate Olympics. I think, just kind of being at that level, being able to play and compete for my country, over, the past 8-10 years, and then, to play in 3 Olympics and get a medal in the first one, and now the third one is something, I never really thought of as a kid. I never thought that would happen. I never thought I'd be in that position. So I'm extremely humbled and proud of it.
Let's face it. I know as a doubles player, you still have a lot of good years left to play if you want to, and we'll get to that in a matter of moments. But a lot of people that don't follow the sport don't kind of compute that. So when the phrase goes out, the oldest Olympic medalist in tennis in over a century, are you like concerned by that? Are you thrilled about that? How do you view that phrase in and of itself?
There was a time when I kind of didn't love those sort of things, because I have had a tendency to hit those oldest ever, or it's taken him the longest ever, or whatever, stuff
Sure.
like that. So, but I it's another thing that I've actually grown to appreciate, that sometimes it just takes people a little bit longer, and it sometimes makes it even more worth it. And if you can do things a little bit later and a little bit, as opposed to maybe some other people, I think it's still an accomplishment in itself. So yeah, it's again something I'm proud of. It feels like it's taken some resilience, it's taken some of that grit, and I'm proud of that as well, because it doesn't always happen so quickly for everybody.
And again, for those that don't know, that don't follow the sport on a regular basis, the guys that are double specialists, as Raj is at this point of his career, they can play well into their 40s. I mean, I can cite a bunch of examples, whether it's, Mark Knowles that comes to mind. Galbraith is a little bit earlier. I'm sure there's others you can rattle off even more so than me. Have you started at all to think about, hey, this is when I'd like to kind of ramp this down, or are you not close to that point of your career just yet?
It's funny you mentioned Mark Knowles. I had a conversation with him at Wimbledon this year about how, he sort of did it in the last few years of his career, how he felt, what are the things I need to look out for. And so we had a nice talk about that. And I think it's not something I really have a plan for. It's just something I have to really pay attention to how I'm feeling, both physically and, mentally and emotionally. Because the reality is to be at the top of the sport, it takes quite an emotional effort to be doing that day in and day out, week in and week out. So, it's there. It's, noticeable. I think the years are taking its toll. It's a lot of miles, it's a lot of travel, but it's something I'm still willing to work for 100% to play in moments like I got to last week in Paris. So I think, the hunger is still there to compete. But I'm aware of it. I'm aware of the fact that it's not there forever, and to pay attention to maybe when I need a little bit of a break.
You are literally 4 days removed from playing for a gold medal. I'm going to ask you about something 4 years from now, but it kind of comes part and parcel. If you win a medal in 2024 immediately, I think even more so because of the Olympics being back here in the States, you letting yourself start to think about L.A. in 2028 at this point?
Absolutely not. At my age, in my years of 20 years of doing this, next week seemed like a long way away. I can't. In 4 years from now, I have no idea. And I'll be very honest. When I left Tokyo, I felt pretty good about the fact that was probably going to be my last Olympics. So to be in this position, to feel like I entered this Olympics in Paris, feeling like one of the favorites to win the thing, or at least to get a medal, was a position I didn't honestly think I would be in. So. I take it 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, and 4 years is a long, long time away for an athlete.
I realize that playing Nadal and Alcaraz was not for a medal. It certainly helped you get to that position. But frankly, that's the match that most people are going to think about, and most people are going to ask you about. So I know you have played against other greats. You played with other greats in terms of the doubles court. What was it like to play him at Roland Garros? How did that change that from just any other meeting you've had with him in the past?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Rafa at Roland Garros, in my opinion, is the greatest athlete in the history of sport. in any capacity.
Sure.
Him on that court, 14-time French Open winner. I mean, that's unfathomable. It really is, And so I think the opportunity to go up against him, and then obviously in a future potentially all-time great in Carlos, on the other side of the net in the Olympics, in something that everybody cared equally about, let's say, was amazing. We played 7 p.m. It was 100% full. So just the whole dynamic, the whole energy of it, it's not so much about the match itself. It was just sort of the setting was incredible, and that's the thing that I will remember the most out of that match.
Few people get to be an Olympic medalist. Also, few people get to kill one of the, one of the funniest for a day or two. Hashtags on Twitter /social media. Do you feel like you ended hashtag Nadal-Caraz with your play last week?
I don't know. Look, I mean, I was happy with the way we played. I was happy with the way we executed. But I'll be honest, I felt pretty good about it going into the match.
Sure.
I mean, we had a game plan. We had a way that we felt like if we executed, we were going to do okay in that match. We were going to do well, just because of the fact that it was doubles and it didn't really matter the court or the surface or anything like that. We felt pretty comfortable about what we were trying to do. If that was Rafa's last match there, I'm honored to have been a part of it, but I don't know. I mean, these guys, as any athlete, have the right to go out on their own terms, and so we'll see.
You and Joe Salisbury now have played together for a long time, and partnerships tend not to last that long unless you have like the same last name. It seems like in terms of World Tour doubles. What sort of an adjustment was it to all of a sudden? Obviously, for those that don't know, Joe's British, so Raj and he can't play together in the Olympics. Austin Krajicek is also a very accomplished doubles player. What sort of transition was that like to play with Austin last week, and then here you and Joe are playing this week in Montreal? What's that adjustment period like for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it wasn't that bad because Austin and I played Davis Cup together. We played a tournament in Houston earlier this year. We've been preparing for this Olympics. We had been preparing for this Olympics for the better part of 8 to 12 months. So we played, in Houston in April. We played in Hamburg 2 weeks before Paris, just to kind of get acclimated with each other, and we got 2 great weeks in together after Wimbledon before the Olympics. So it really wasn't that much of an adjustment. And moreover, we've known each other for years. We played, when we were playing singles, we played some doubles together. We're good friends, and so it wasn't that tough, which I think was one of the reasons that we did perform as well as we did, is because there was a bit of familiarity and a bit of sense of comfort there. And then honestly, same thing with Joe. I mean, this is our 6th year together playing on tour. As you said, that's pretty long for 2 people, especially if they're not named Bob and Mike Bryan. So, it's not that much of an adjustment. It's not any adjustment, to be honest, because this is both feel incredibly comfortable. Joe and I playing, it's like riding a bike. We've done it for so long, and it feels pretty comfortable.
This is like asking a successful married couple how you stayed together. But in all seriousness, again, teams don't last. You see great doubles players that are switching partners not all the time, but seemingly every other year or so. That's almost like a common law marriage in tennis. What has been clearly, you guys have had the results that's kept you together, but what is it about the chemistry of the two of you that seems to click?
Yeah, I think we both view it the same way. We both think about it in terms of not like the immediate result. It's like, okay, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to improve? Are we feeling like this is going in the right direction? Are we trying our hardest? Are we enjoying it? Like those kinds of things. I think both of us also understand that, just because the grass may look greener on the other side, it hardly usually is. It's an adjustment period that you have to go through with somebody else. And, what we've been able to build together over the last 5-6 years has been pretty special, I think. And, I think it's not something that either of us take for granted or are willing to kind of throw away just because it's, not been maybe the best 2, 3, 4 months type of thing.
Rajeev Ram is our guest. Greg Rakestraw in for JMV. It's The Ride here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Obviously, I don't have a chance to go to the closing ceremony of the Olympics because you're in Montreal as you and I are having this conversation. And I'll explain that for those that don't follow the tour coming up in a matter of moments. Did you allow yourself to enjoy the opening ceremonies, or were you locked in and getting ready for the doubles draw at Roland Garros?
I enjoyed it watching it on my TV, to be honest with you. The opening ceremony is a wonderful thing. I was very fortunate to be a part of it in Rio, and I felt like once was enough for me because we had to actually play the next day. And, like I said, at the end of the day, sort of when the draw comes out and you're ready to play, it's a tournament. And something like that is not something I would do at a regular event. No chance if I had to play the next day. So I ended up not playing, actually, because it rained the next day. It rained all during the opening ceremonies for whoever watched. I'm sure you know that. So it was it was a calculated decision. It was one that I was okay with. I obviously was such a blast to see Coco Gauff, who was my teammate, carry the flag with LeBron. That was what a cool moment for us as her teammates and for tennis in general. That was really neat to see. But, I didn't partake it in person.
Did you have, and we have seen a lot of other athletes go to other venues in between. Did you get to do any of that for the 7 or 8 days that you were in Paris?
No, unfortunately, I didn't get to do that either because, like I said, we were supposed to. It rained. We had 2 days
stuck,
where it rained, and so our whole deal got pushed back, and we ended up playing 5 matches in 6 days, and the only day we had off was the day before the final. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for any of that, and I left the day after the final. So that was one thing. It was too bad. I mean, it was for a good reason, obviously, because we were winning. But one of my best memories from Rio was going to see a couple events. I went to see a swimming competition where the Americans won gold, and I went to see a men's basketball game, which was really cool. And then in Tokyo, I didn't have that opportunity because we weren't allowed to do that since it was the COVID game, so we could only go to our own venue, if you will. But like I said, a good reason not to be able to go to another sporting event because I was playing my own.
You are used to literally circumnavigating the globe on a year-by-year basis, chasing summer, as those that kind of call it, and for 20 years at this point. So you're used to flying from one continent to another, but normally you're kind of able to maybe budget a week off in between before you do that. Just how tough of a turn is it to go from playing in Paris? For those that don't follow it, there's 2 1,000 Series events or Masters Series events this week and next on the ATP World Tour. Montreal is this week. Just down the road in Cincinnati is next week. You don't have much of a choice. You kind of have to play this week. How tough a turn is that for you and everybody else in the field?
Really tough. We have it tough in general. I'm not going to complain about playing a game for a living, but we do travel probably more than any athlete that I know of in terms of how global it is. And this is a time, actually, when the Olympics was and the week before, where I usually take a bit of a break. I usually take 2 to 3 weeks off after Wimbledon to kind of rest and get ready for the U.S. hardcourt season. I went to French Licks to play golf for a few days every year the last couple of 2-3 years. And so obviously that hasn't happened. It was intense competition, super emotional competitions at the Olympics, and now we're right back here, like you said, in a huge tournament. So it is challenging for sure, and I had the same thing happen the last time when we were in Tokyo. It was like flew back from Tokyo, and in 2 days I left for Canada again, and it's certainly something that is part of it's a big adjustment because it's not something we normally do.
All right, one more tennis thing, a couple quick things, and then we'll let you go. This is a good problem to have. When you get to Flushing Meadows, you are the 3-time defending U.S. Open men's doubles champions. What sort of pressure, what sort of confidence? You can take it kind of either way. What's your mindset knowing that you've won that thing each of the last 3 times it's been played?
It still sometimes doesn't. I still can't believe it sometimes. Just because I've been to that tournament, since I was 14 years old for one reason or another, and to have won the last 3 of them is crazy, to be honest. I mean, I think it's my best accomplishment in tennis by a good stretch. So what does that do for this year? It definitely gives me a bit of confidence. There is a bit of pressure, no question. It's a tournament where we feel like we're the ones to beat, and there's a bit of pressure. But we've also won 18 matches in a row there, so it's something that we feel great about. We feel like we know what it takes to win there, and what it takes to play well and perform at our best, and hopefully we can show up again. All
right, a couple quick things, and then we'll let you go. Rajeev Ram, again, Olympic silver medalist, joining us here the ride without JMV. Greg Rakestraw filling in on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Again, you are literally hopping from continent to continent to chase tennis glory. How often do you make it back to Central Indiana and Carmel at this point?
Whenever I can. This time of the year usually is when I'm the most in Indiana. I was there for a night after I got home from Paris before we got into Montreal. But like I said, usually after Wimbledon I have 2-3 weeks at home at the end of the year. But our season goes from January to November, so it's not much. I'm definitely not home as much as I would like or as I would feel comfortable with. But I love it when I can be home, and I do take advantage of the time.
And final thing before I let you go, does the name Pete Smith from Carmel High School ring a bell to you?
Pete Smith.
Pete Smith. not a student, but a teacher while you were there. In fact, the basketball coach
sure.
while you were there.
Yeah.
Because
I wouldn't have known his first name.
Right,
sorry,
Mr. Smith. Sure,
yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah, there we go. That's better. Yeah, sure.
Coach Smith. So the reason I bring this up, because last week Pete and I were traveling, doing a couple of events, amazingly during the Olympics, for USA Basketball, and your name comes up in terms of playing Olympic doubles. He goes, I tried to recruit Raj as a basketball player. His parents very kindly said, hey, this tennis thing is kind of important. I think he's got a bright future in it. I would say it's paid off 25 years later, but I wanted to get that story from you. You remember him trying to convince you to come play basketball when you were a high school student at Carmel?
You know what? I actually don't, because it probably didn't get much further than that. But let me tell you what. It's his win that I didn't play for him, because as much as I would like to think that my athletic talent kind of goes from sport to sport, it certainly doesn't go to basketball. So he made out well with that.
He said his dad, as kindly as possible, said, you know what, we appreciate your interest, but we're going to have him focus on tennis. And I would say the fact that I've rattled off 6 Grand Slams, 2 Olympic medals, playing at the age of 40, I think it has all paid off. I have taken up enough of your time on an off day. So happy for you. Please let me know the next time you are back in town, and thanks for the time. Good luck in Montreal. Good luck in the U.S. Open coming up later this month.
Thanks so much for having me.
Rajeev Ram, I can remember very vividly him kind of starting his career at this level of ATP tennis, getting to play at the Indianapolis Tennis Championships. Obviously, that has not been the case, my goodness, for 15 years. And he made the decision about 10 years ago to focus on doubles, thinking it would extend his career. And here we are. He is the oldest Olympic medalist in tennis in more than a century. Now, in fairness, they didn't play tennis for about 60 years of that time. It was reintroduced in the LA Games 84 and then officially back in for Seoul in 88. But Raj has played 20 years of professional tennis. And while the end is closer than the beginning, he's not thinking about ramping it down just yet. Love getting to catch up with him. We've got one more segment left to go. We are at the Dairy Bar at the Indiana State Fair. And, well, it's never the wrong temperature for milkshakes. It is certainly the right temperature for me. I'm glad this remote was on Thursday and not unlike Monday or Tuesday of this week. We are back to wrap it up next. Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Have you ever killed anyone?
Yeah, but they were all bad.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I'm sure a young man that was a celebrity when he would visit the Johnson County Fair back in his days at Center Grove High School. You also know him from his days at Ball State, UCLA, and these days trying to make his way in the National Football League with the Kansas City Chiefs. It is Carson Steel that joins us now. Carson, it's Greg Rakestraw. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing good. You've been introduced as so many different teams. Are you getting accustomed to the fact of having Chiefs attached to your name now?
Yeah, it's a little bit surreal, when you first get it announced out, but, it's definitely sinking in a little bit now, and it feels great. So.
Well, I know you from your days, obviously, back at Center Grove and happened to catch, I think, your first varsity game playing against Warren Central back in the day. So you're used to being a tailback or a halfback, but on the depth chart listed as a fullback. So what is that kind of change of position like for you so far?
For sure. And, just coming into everything, they kind of told me a little bit like, hey, we're going to kind of push you around in different spots, try you in every category basically. And, just like my style of game, I'm a bigger running back, get the tough kind of yards. And that's kind of more of a, like a fullback standpoint. And, so I just talked with them about it, and they really thought that, that was the best position and spot for me to be able to fit in and, help out for the team. And so that's where they got me at right now so far.
So does that mean you're doing a lot of blocking? Does that mean you're doing a lot of pass catching? Just how different is practice for you than, say, it has been when you've been the featured guy getting the ball for the last several years at different levels?
Yeah, and just like you were saying, being the, featured running back and stuff like that. But honestly, under Coach Reed's offense, they have me catching out of the backfield, still taking reps at running back too as well, and like you said before, more of the pass blocking and the, running downhill and blocking. But, just being able to be surrounded by a bunch of, great people and, fit in where I get in is kind of my motto. And, so if they want me to come down and block, I'm going to come down and block, or they want me to catch out of the backfield, I got to do that as well too. Just any way I can fit in.
For the entirety of your life, Andy Reid has been winning football games in the National Football League. You've now been around him for, 3 or 4 months. What are the things that are already hitting you as to, this is why this guy is a genius. This is why he is going to the Hall of Fame. What have you learned from him already?
Yeah, definitely. There's once that first playbook, hit down on my desk, it was like 200 and some plays. And, just being able to, he has, so many concepts of, having different things and having dudes that can play more than one position and, having them switch out and stuff like that, having so many categories where you could put another player in a different spot. It just kind of switches up, the game and confuses people. And, nobody really knows what's going on. And that way, that's why his offenses have been able to work so much. So just being able to get in here these last, couple months, I would say, learn the scripts, the playbook, learning how everybody does everything, and especially, being under the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
It definitely has helped out and, really, provided my game to another level.
Well, that's where I was going next. Andy Reid is the wow factor in the meeting room. Patrick Mahomes is the wow factor on the field. Do you have to try to, like almost block that out and go, hey, dude, you're playing football. Don't think about it, because again, he has been the best player in the league now for so many years, and the winningest player from a Super Bowl standpoint. How do you kind of not think about that when you're out there on the field with him?
Yeah, just like you said, being out there every day on a practice field, growing up watching these dudes play, and now you're playing with them. You kind of see the first couple days, you're kind of surreal moment, but after that, you kind of just got to lock in and get going with it. But like you were saying, just having him around in the atmosphere, the locker room, the meetings, the practice field, he's a leader, and he's always going to be a leader. And, so he's always pushing, in the meetings, just the little details. And that's why they've been so great. It's because he's able to do it without having a head coach, have to push every single person. He could push a couple guys, and then Pat's going to lead as well, especially, some of the other veterans too. They're going to lead their groups, could have the success that, everybody's seen them have.
Former Center Grove Trojan, Ball State Cardinal, UCLA Bruin, Carson Steel, our guest, Greg Rakestraw, in for JMV here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. As I do a quick check of the depth chart, obviously, George Karlaftis has been out there and won a couple of rings. Drew Tranquil is out there now, and those are obviously, you know where I'm going with this. Those are the Indiana guys that played high school football in the state. How well did you know either of those two before training camp got started?
To be honest, they're a little bit older than me, so I didn't know them that well. I knew George played at Purdue. He played with David Bell and stuff, so I knew a little bit more of that because I played David at Warren, so – going into it, I didn't really know him that well, but, as training camp's going on, obviously we all have had the connection, being Indiana guys, and, it's been great going against them, too, every day, because they're the best of the best as well. So being able to go against, one-on-ones just every single day is just the only reason that, keeps improving both our games.
Let's talk about last year. What were your expectations going into UCLA? When you look back on it, what did that do in terms of giving you this opportunity in the National Football League?
For sure. Obviously, everybody has the expectations. You want to go into somewhere, kind of be the guy and, get the most reps, carry stuff like that. But, when I went in there, had a little bit of a, hiccup, had an injury throughout the year, and I had a hernia on my left side. So that kind of hindered me a little bit throughout the year. And many people didn't know that I had it, because I kind of just kept playing through it. So I kind of got my carry split a little bit, but, at the end of the day, being under Coach Foster, it really helps me to, take my game to the next level and just learn, the little things, what it is to be a running back and fullback, being able to block, catch, pass, like we were saying before. And I would say that really, showed up on my film both at Ball State and UCLA, and that's kind of really what I feel like made the Chiefs to, have the push to sign me, so.
When you were in Westwood or Pasadena, did you feel like you were at a Big Ten school, Carson?
Honestly, I really did. Just having, being able to see, just coming in, it felt a little weird, going from Ball State to LA, but, it's going to be an exciting year for them too as well, being able to travel all over, playing throughout the Big Ten, but just seeing the, the facilities and stuff like that they had, everything to really help out an athlete. They're definitely going to make a run and compete with the big guys, so I'm excited for it.
All right, couple quick things, and then we'll let you go. How often do you talk to Coach Moore? Who, from a Center Grove football standpoint, have you stayed connected to over these last 3 years?
Definitely. I would say, man, I couldn't tell you. I would say we call every other couple days, just checking up on each other. He's a great guy, a great football coach, obviously, just all the success he's had, but he's also, been a very good person to me as well, outside of football, helping me with stuff. So always staying connected with him. And there's been a few people that I've stayed connected with, throughout the Center Grove Football League, just because, like I was saying, it's always been a big tradition type of feeling when you go into the Center Grove atmosphere, watching the Titus McCoys, Max Norrises, Devon Swan, those guys before me now. And now you got guys that are younger, like McClurg, and then Owen Bright, his little brothers coming up. Just like you can see the Cherries as well. Just younger guys, too, now that are coming up throughout the tradition, and they've grown up throughout Center Grove. And that's really the big thing, is that everybody starts young in Center Grove, and that's what really makes them have success later on in high school.
Carson, some of us are old enough where we've called the McClurg's dad's games at Center Grove as well, just so you know, as we're having this conversation. Carson Steel, our guest. Again, Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. So as a rookie that is trying to make the team, you don't get that veteran luxury of getting a series or two in the preseason. You're going to be out there a lot. What are your expectations in terms of playing time coming up this week and for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, just like you were saying, coming up the preseason, it's kind of really to make your mark. But, I'm expecting a little bit of both of, running back, fullback, a lot of special teams as well. So I just got to really get out there and kind of showcase what I have to offer and, see how everything goes and hopefully, keep making the push forward to, jump out and make that 53-man, roster. So I'm very excited for it.
Final thing, you have been in Kansas City now for maybe 3 months at this point. Kansas City is a wonderful town, especially when it comes to barbecue. Have you picked out your favorite barbecue spot in Kansas City just yet?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm gonna be honest. I kind of doubted them for a second about the barbecue. I heard about it, but I didn't really know for sure. And I'm telling you, you could go to any spot. It doesn't matter if it's out in nowhere or downtown. If you go to any spot, it's always going to have good barbecue. So everyone I've went to so far, it's been great. So I'm still trying to figure out number one right now.
Well, let me tell you this. Let me give you this. I'm heading out to Kansas City. I'm going to be out there. The Indy 11 are playing out there in the Open Cup. So I'm going to do the match at Children's Mercy Park for Sporting Kansas City on August 27th. I'm landing at the airport at 10:30. I don't have to be at the stadium until about 4 o'clock local time. In the 5.5 hours I have in between, I can guarantee you I'm going to Gates Barbecue at some point in time.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an idea as to maybe a spot you should try out or like. Just a tip from a friend. How about that?
For sure, yep. That's definitely one of the fan favorites, too. So.
And then final thing before we let you go, final thing, is the hair still as luxurious as ever?
It definitely is. You know, I got to keep my style going. So I got a little trim going, but nothing too much. So it's still flowing out the helmet. So definitely excited for that one as well, too.
I never had that level of game, so I'm jealous and respectful of that all at the same time. Carson, I'm rooting for you, buddy. I appreciate your time. Good luck in Kansas City. I hope our paths cross soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You got it. Former Center Grove Trojan, Ball State Cardinal, UCLA Bruin, and hopeful to be a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. And if there's a coach that can figure out a way, how do I use his talents at different positions? Andy Reid is that guy. Thanks to Carson for joining us.